I'm responsible for sales, and I'm also known in the context of the PDFA Competency Center, so we are very active in this one, and I will do this webinar together with my colleague Armin, our CTO, and Armin will introduce himself briefly.
Hello, my name is Armin Ortmann. I am the CTO, and as Thomas said, I will do the practical bit of this webinar. And for most of the talking, I will be muted and let Thomas present the slides.
Okay. So you missed the practical thing with the chat.
Right. You are absolutely right. There is one thing, you all are switched to mute. We apologize for that, but it's technically necessary. Still, you will be able to pose questions through the chat feature in the GoToWebinar software, and we will strive to answer all the questions we receive throughout the webinar, throughout this chat, either privately or in public. As we know from experience, we usually don't manage to answer everything satisfactorily. So if you don't receive an answer throughout the webinar, we will get back to you afterwards and send you information by email. And of course also if something comes up in the aftermath, don't hesitate to contact through our info and support accounts. We will always gladly answer questions that come up in the context of PDF compression and PDFA and document conversion and compression in general. And also one more thing, at the end of this webinar we have a short questionnaire that we would like you to answer to provide us with more information as to how you liked the webinar, what you found useful, and how we can improve further sessions. So that's it then, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, but obviously you should, or we want to discuss as a little bit here, and as Armin said, we are happy to explain more later. So now we can start. I would like to start with a short introduction for LuraTech as a company so that you know who's talking and doing this webinar. So LuraTech is basically a specialist for document conversion. So this is a focus of our company, which things we have done for over 15 years. So we started with wavelet image compression, JPEG2000, which also will come later back to us. And then we had documents. So these are the points document conversion, and mainly this software and services comes down to two major product families. The one is our LuraDocument PDF Compressor Enterprise. So this is a complete application in order to create high compressed text searchable PDF, or as we discussed today, PDFA files. So this is obviously also the focus of the day, and also we will present the PDF-A-2 standard more from a point of the scanning document parts. We'll also touch some of the digital things. Our second major product family is called Dockyard. So this is here. This is a complete input management platform, especially for scan service providers. So this will not be the focus of today. We will also do further webinars on this if you're interested. And obviously, when you do a complete input management, then PDFA on the document format level may also be one result or the result of that. LuraTech is committed to open standards for a long time, so we really started back in the late 90s with when JPEG2000, so image compression, this is a little bit also our history, started. So we worked in the ISO committee in this area, and then we moved on or extended to documents, scanned documents, and obviously also worked a lot with our technical people in the ISO committee for the PDFA standard, and initiated and founded the PDFA Competency Center back in 2006. And I think this was also a very important thing, and we will see that PDFA, or you already know, is quite well accepted now in the marketplace worldwide. Just for the introduction, I want to have a short look for the, let's say, main user requirements regarding long-term archiving. So the first question, theoretical, can be, do we need in our IT industry a long-term archiving format? And we like to quote here this AIM survey, which they did. I think it was last year, so this was really the question, how long do we need to keep the documents? And as you all know, we have less paper documents and more documents are only available digital anymore, or they are scanned and the paper is destroyed, so the original document is only available digital anymore. And then this is one question which was answered, and there are obviously some short-term documents which is sometimes, depending on the country, also legal requirements for the, let's say, the trade things. But when you look into the business documents, then you can see, and this was a result of this survey, that a lot of companies and organizations have to keep them quite long, which starts with 20 years here, for example. In, for example, banks, when you have a credit thing going on, this is typically 20, 25 years. If you are in insurance, for example, then 50 years, 80 years up to person lifetimes is a typical time. When you go to the longer term, like nuclear power plants or other things where all the documents have to be kept as long as let's say, production or the power plant exists. And when we go to archives and libraries, then obviously long-term means typically forever. So you can see the majority, and this was a result of this survey, is really have to be kept long-term. And you all know our IT industry is moving quite fast. So this is really a challenge, and this was one reason, and this is, I think, also the reason it's not that there's an ISO standard, it's really a user requirement why PDFA is so successful and so well accepted already after 5 years. The second point, and this is always a little bit in the background, but I think this is also very important, also when I speak to users, and this is really a key issue, or key issue in this area. So if you look also to your own company archives, then you typically find what we like to call the format zoo. So you have a lot of different formats because the IT industry has lots of products and solutions. So when you just look to scans documents, you have JPEGs, you have TIFFs, you have scanned PDFs, maybe you have other formats. Then when you go to what we call the born digital, so documents which are digitally born, then you have the Office, different Office packages, you have project, maybe Microsoft project files, CAD systems, etc., etc. And then looking a little bit into the output world, but if you think of a customer folder where you get input from your customer in forms of letters or emails, and output, you produce output mails or letters to the customer, then you have the typical output formats like AFP, XML, and others. So this is also sometimes very complex or wide variety of formats, and then obviously the question is, how many viewers do you need in your organization? And the employee who is really working on the logics and is not an IT specialist, how many viewers does he need to work with and to understand and to learn? How often do you have to migrate this? How long are those documents readable? I guess you all know an example where it was a tough task, at least, to make a document which maybe was only 10 years old readable again, to reproduce it again, and how to reproduce this in an unknown IT future. So this is also, let's say, the second reason why, or user requirement, which led to the idea of generating the ISO PDFA standard. And this slide also motivates the base ideas which the ISO committee had, but also user companies, and I like to mention Airbus because I know this quite well, had the same idea. So basically the challenge was to say we have only digital documents, we have to, in the case of Airbus, to keep them for 99 years, construction plans of airplanes, and they knew this is somehow a problem. Well, what can we do? And the idea, which is also a practical idea, and a lot of people have done this automatically by themselves, to say, or to have the idea, PDF, this is a good and this is a modern format. It's also very widespread. It can serve as a container format for all formats. And when we look to the, let's say, key requirements, and we have the format synchronization. So this is possible with PDF, but long-term reproduction may be an issue because PDF is a good and modern format, but for the goal of long-term archiving, it has too many features. So you can, as you know, do things which are interesting, which are helpful in special applications, but which may not be appropriate for the archive. So you don't want to have active content, like you can do JavaScript in PDF or small programs. You can and do encryption of PDF files. So this is not what you want to have in the archive. And therefore, the base idea was to say, okay, PDF is a good starter. Let's choose this as a modern and widespread format, but for the goal of archiving, it can do too much. So let's create a subset. And this is a very simple reminder or idea to have just a subset of PDF which is safe for long-term archiving. So this was a goal of the ISO standard, and this is what led from 2002 until 2005 to PDF-A ISO standard part 1, or just short PDF-A-1. So this is the ISO standard for document management. It was released in 2005, so this is already nearly 6 years. And as I said, it's called PDF-A-1 and has 2 conformance levels, which are more a little bit for project details, which is 1B or 1A. And this is not official, but as a small reminder, so I like to shortcut B for basic. So this gives you basic reproduction, and A is for accessibility. So this adds some features we will see in a moment. And the title makes it quite clear. So the standard is electronic document file format for long-term preservation. And as you have seen also in the short presentation, which motivates this very nicely, the 4 cornerstones, they are here repeated, but I also want to briefly repeat them. So there are some simple base ideas to say you want a reproduction of static documents. So the very simple to reminder that the base idea is to say we want some kind of digital or electronic paper. So this is the whole idea for static, two-dimensional documents, to have something which is really safe and long-term archivable in the IT world. Other thing is what's called the self-documentation. So it's also very important. So it's not just the document, but also the describing data or metadata can be embedded. So this is also available and comes with PDF and is standardized, and also the semantic and logical structure. This is optional, but those can be contained in the documents in order, for example, to reach accessibility of documents. And the fourth or one other principle is a transparency, which means so even in the worst case, so think of 20 or 30 years from now, there may be no Adobe, no Microsoft and other companies anymore. So it's still possible when there's some kind of computer, however it will look like, nobody knows today, and the ISO specification there, then somebody can sit down and write a viewer, so in a real worst case scenario. And basically it comes to what I said already, that we're talking about a subset of PDF which is safe for the long-term archiving, and more from a, let's say, technical point of view, you can also simply think of technically good PDF. So the PDF is a very good format, but if you have you can do a lot of things wrong or not so good, let's put it this way, and this is also one benefit of the PDF-A standard, that it will check and ensure that all the PDF specifications are used quite properly. Now we come, after the short introduction into the PDF-A ISO standard in general, slowly to PDF-2, so the focus of this webinar today, the new part of the norm, and we start with the similarities. So what is really similar, which principles remains, and I would like to start at the bottom. So the base principle still remains electronic paper. So this idea to say we want to have something which is like paper in a computer, so the electronic paper, and this meant for the development of PDF-A-2, that's still the principle of self-containment. So the document must contain everything what is needed in order to reproduce it in an unknown future. So you're still not allowed to link content. So if I'm, let's say, a little bit lazy, and I can write a PDF document and link page 3 and 4 to somewhere on a web server, but this is obviously not allowed. You still have the rule of font embedding, which must be done. You need the unique font description. You have a unique reproduction. Active content like JavaScript is still not allowed. Encryption is still not allowed. No actions, which is no movies, no audio, no form functions are allowed. Whereas this also brings a little bit us to the discussion when to make a PDFA. So obviously PDF forms are a very powerful tool and option, and it's also a good thing to do, but as long as the form is not filled or completed, it's still, let's say, with a daily date, but then, e.g., I complete a form, and then I select the day, September 1st of today, and then this is the point in time after I have completed the form to, in the workflow, in the logical flow, to convert it to PDFA, because tomorrow it should not have the date of September 2nd, it should still September 1st when I completed the form. And LCW compression is still not allowed, and this was a patent issue, so ISO always checks that there are no patents on ISO standards, and this was the reason why LCW was not added in PDFA-1 and is still not added in -2, but according to my experience from user talks, there's not much importance anymore. Then we look into the differences, so what's new with PDFA-2, and this is somewhat the overview slide, and then we will go into the details. And as you can see, this is really not a revolution, so there's really an evolution. So this was also the idea of the ISO committee in the beginning to say, we start the standardization now, but we know technology moves on, life goes on, and we will add senseful, useful features over time, and from the first day they designed to have further parts in the standard, and you can see the overview. And one thing which also happened in between, so when we look back to PDFA-1, this was based on PDF 1.4, which was open by Adobe but still owned by Adobe. And in the meantime, PDF itself became an ISO standard, which is called 32000 or 32K, as you like it. And this one is now somewhat the foundation for the real in-between family of PDF standards. So you can think of a picture where you have the foundation, what the PDF standard itself is, and on top of this, you have specific standards. Obviously, we are talking about PDFA for archiving, but there's PDFX for the prepress industry, there's PDFA for the engineering area, or there's PDFVT for the high-volume transaction output. And the features are, JPEG2000 was added in between, which was basically just missing in timing or bad timing. So PDF-1 started on PDF 1.4, and then JPEG2000 came with 1.5, so this was just a timing issue, no principal concerns. Layers, optional content is added now. Then this is also user feedback, extended annotation. So obviously the ISO committee collected and spoke with users and integrated this into the next part, which is extended annotations are allowed. We can do portfolios, which are PDF files in PDFA files. We have a new conformance level, which is also interesting for scanned documents with OCR. There are some limits relaxed, which is larger page sizes, and then these are, let's say, the new features, and as you can see, not too much, sometimes useful for special applications, so no revolution here, just an evolution, and some areas are more strictly defined, so the XMP, which is also a standard by itself, metadata is now on the object level, and some things have been relaxed, because maybe they was also a little bit too strict in the first standard, so transparency is allowed now. We will see later in the live demo a nice example, and also the PDF layer switching is allowed. Let's go step by step into the major features. major features also from the point, as we said, we have a little bit of focus on scanned documents, and obviously one of them is JPEG2000. And some of you may know the LuraTech solutions already, but in general, this is a principle here what demonstrates how MRC, which is mixed raster content compression, works in general, and is obviously one strong point of the LuraTech solutions, as we will see. So if you have a very, let's say, generic document here on the top, so it's mixed text and the color, then the trick is not to do it like JPEG, to compress it similar and everything gets worse in quality, but to really say there are different object types in the document and we want to split them off and want to compress everything optimal. So basically it's split off into 3 layers. That's the base principle of MRC compression, whereas you have the middle layer here, which is a text or the text information typically, which is black text on white background. Then you have on the top, you have the text color, which remarks that the red text was in red. And then we have the image in the background, which is really can be compressed quite heavily. This can be logos, graphics, things like that. And here you see the samples. Some of them you may use them, but I just want briefly to repeat. So this goes for a scan A4 in 300 dpi resolution. If you do it totally uncompressed in TIFF, it's 24 megabytes, so not handleable for scans. This is why in, let's say, in the history or a lot of existing archive is decided for black and white, which gives you an acceptable page size. When color was needed, JPEG was also quite often the solution to choose, so but it's still somewhat big, and even worse, it's bad quality. So JPEG is not a document format. JPEG is wonderful for our digital cameras, but when you really want to focus on documents and on text, then you want the best quality of text elements, and obviously you want simple things like multi-page, and you know one JPEG picture or photo is typically one file, and this is not what we want with multi-page document. When you have PDF-A, then you get an optimal quality and base nearly the same size like black and white, and with PDF-A-2 we move on more in compression, so the compression is improved. And this may be a little bit too technical, but for those who know the LuraTech solutions already, you can see what compression schemas are used for the different layers. So in -1, JPEG2000 was not allowed, so it was TIFF or JPEG2 for the text part, whereas JPEG2 is already a pretty good compression for black and white text. And we had JPEG for the image and background image color, and now with -2 you can have JPEG2000. But this was a little bit theoretical, so I think Armin can demonstrate this much better in a practical example.
Yes, thank you. At least I will try. Give me 1 second to switch. What we will show is a few of the benefits of PDF-A-2, and in the context of our flagship product, PDF Compressor Enterprise. This here is the user interface of PDF Compressor. I know that some of you are familiar with it. For the others, I'll give a very brief introduction and hope not to bore everyone else too much. What you see here is a list of so-called compression or conversion jobs. Each of these jobs is independent and can create a different flavor of PDF, and also, of course, now PDF-A and PDF-A-2. If I open the properties of such a job, you see different tabs here where you can adjust lots of properties. The most important ones are the input. The input can be either a file or a whole directory of files, or even a file system tree with all the subdirectories. And then you can, of course, configure the output location for the documents to convert. And you have different modes of conversion. There are 4 major modes with certain options as to add OCR, for example. And what Thomas just outlined, the compression with the 3 different layers for different aspects or different parts and content types within each image. That's the so-called MRC compression. We also have a PDF optimization, which will only compress images found within an existing PDF as input. And we have the born digital conversion, which can convert Office documents such as Microsoft Word files or OpenOffice files or Excel sheets, as mentioned, to PDF. All of these can now also produce PDF-A, and the actual switch for the PDF version to create is here on this last tab named Encoder, and here you see the different standard PDF versions. You also see PDF A1A and A1B, and now, and that's the new part in the latest releases, you have PDF A2B and 2U. And so if you go here and choose PDF A1B, you see that you have no choice here in this sub-dialog to switch between JPEG and JPEG2000, whereas if I choose PDF A-2 here, I can choose between automatic, which will be JPEG2000 as it is the more efficient encoding scheme, or you can explicitly choose between the two. So if for some reason you are required to produce JPEG, this is of course also still possible in PDF A-2. As for the effects of that choice, I have prepared a few things. Sorry, we're not doing that live here for timing reasons. But of course, all of you can obtain a demo license for PDF Compressor and check the effects with your own source material, which is usually better anyway. Will it open up now? Hopefully, yes. So I have this 1A and A1 and A2 folders here, and what you see here are the same documents processed with the same settings, and you see size reductions here from 30 to 25 kilobyte, and here from 113 to 71. These are actually just real-world examples. Let's take that one here. There we go. Okay, so here you have an example file, and those have been compressed with either schema. So what we can conclude here as a basic message is that there is quite a significant reduction. It's not grandiose, but it's really in the range of 10, 15, 20, 25% even, depending on the source material. Of course, if you have really full color materials such as this, the reduction is more impressive than if you have grayscale or black and white material. That's for sure. Okay, that's this bit of my practical part. Back to Thomas's presentation, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Armin, for the first. But we have some more live demos in order to just make it a little bit more interactive. Or it's not interactive, but that you have a little bit more live presentation. So as you have seen, the compression is improved, but also the quality gets better by that. And the next opportunity is the possibility of having JPEG2000 and layers, so you can have optional content. We will in a minute demo this with a MRC compression, but in order to give you the general use cases. So we have the general use case of being having multi-language documents. So there's also a very strong feature of PDF to have the multi-language option, so you can have one PDF document in English and German and Italian and all other language and can easily switch. Or this week we just have a customer visit from a nuclear power plant, and when they do large construction maps, so they showed us an example which was, I don't know, 3 by 3 meters, something like that. They're quite big, and you can use those layers in order to, when this document is opened the first time, not to show all details, to give an overview of the general structures, and only when the user zooms into this document, then you can switch on the layers with more details, like detailed tables and so on. And for this one, which is an historical example, and there are a lot of historic documents we scanned, Armin has also a nice demo.
Yes, thank you. Once again, let's move to this folder of prepared documents. And let's, for example, take this map. This is PDF A-2, and in contrast to PDF A1, PDF A1, this layer switch can now be displayed in the Adobe Reader, and it's possible to eliminate layer information. So, for example, if I hide both the text color and the background layers, which are actually the JPEG2000 layers here, I only have the black and white information left. That's where our MRC compression uses these layers, but as Thomas said, they can also be used, for example, for CAD documents where they would contain different elements, say, of engineering drawing or things like that. So this is just one example. In contrast, if I open up the same document from the PDF A1 folder, you see that Adobe Reader does not present me with this layer switch. That's due to the standard, actually. Showing these layers or enabling to choose from the available layers was not allowed in PDF A1, but has been allowed for PDF A2. Okay, and back to you, Thomas.
Okay, thank you. So this was a layer example. Then another new or added function to the part 2 is what's called portfolios or collections. And the base idea is to have PDF, or to enable PDF-A files within PDF-A files. So at this point in time, with part 1, or until part 1, this was a flat file, but now you can embed, but you can only embed PDF-A files into PDF-A. So there's a discussion or ongoing standardization effort for PDF-A-3 to add more document types, but with the part 2 it's only PDF-A. And just to what we see and learn the 3 simple use cases. And the one thing is you can have e-folders like paper folders. So as you know it from the good old folder rack, you can have better structure of paper folders. Then you have the email, or this is one use case, and the second one, and there we see a lot of interest, and obviously it's a need because companies get more and more email or do more and more business via email, and those has also be to archive. And you all know it's typically not just a simple text mail, so it's typically a text mail and then I attach a Word and a PDF file itself, and this is what a lot of customers, to my experience, are already doing, to say, hey, it's a little bit difficult to store all those different, think of the format zoo in the beginning, all this maybe unknown attachment types, and it would be much safer and better for long-term archiving of business emails, which must be archived, to do this as a PDF-A file. And with the part 1 you could do this, or you can do this already, but basically you get one PDF-A file, which is a very good thing because you have one logical document which contains as well the text of the email as the attachments, but you lose a little bit the context that maybe page 3 and page 4 was originally the Word attachment, and maybe page 5 and page 6 was originally the PDF. So this can be accomplished now much better. And the third case, which is a little bit special to some industries, but some companies must need to have done in the past single signed, which are digital signed TIFF files, but they want to merge them together, and you cannot easily do it after the digital signature has happened, as the signature breaks then, as it is expected to do. So this is also a little bit special, but for some industries, interesting use case. But I think that's according to our experience from the project, the email conversion is the most interesting thing, and Armin has an example for email conversion for us.
Yes, I do, indeed. This is again just one of the files we prepared. Just 1 second. Okay, here we go. So we do have this item here, attachment. First of all, this really is just a plain old email message, but if we go here into attachments, we see it does have 4 attachments, each of which really is a PDF document in its own right. So if I double click them, I see a new instance of Adobe Reader displaying this sub-document. That's basically all there is to it. We've had the question before, yes, these sub-documents can be nested, but of course you must figure out for yourself how many levels of PDFs within PDFs within PDFs are really feasible in your case. Okay, that's it already. Back to you, Thomas.
Okay, so I learned something on the nesting level from our first questionnaire. Thank you. So then we have the 2U conformance level. So as you may remember from the start of the presentation, there are different conformance levels. This is typically a part of the project detail, so this is what has to be defined. But basically there was, as I said in the beginning, with part 1, there was 1B, remember B as B, basic, and 1A, like accessible. And the 2 major differences were Unicode and accessibility, which technically means PDF text. So full accessibility is hard to reach for a scan document or for an output document. It's to reach, but a lot of manual effort. So if you want a full accessible document, then typically you have to consider this when you really start, and then typically a born digital document to create this document. And this was also user feedback to the ISO committee, and they said, okay, but Unicode is for scanned documents still a good feature. Let's introduce an intermediate level, and this is called now 2U. So there's still 2B and still 2A, and 2U, simply to remind, Unicode is an intermediate level, and this is what is here briefly described. So it really uses Unicode, which is also a worldwide standard for character definition with all languages of this world, even the very complicated Asian ones. And this is a uniquely identifying of the characters, and it's really a technical proper definition. So let's take a practical example. I think you all know this, and it happens all the time to me. I receive an email with a PDF, and I think, hey, I can just copy and paste it into my mail text, and when I do that, I only see garbage on my mail screen. And if this happened, then this was not Unicode. So this is one simple practical example how this is solved. When we look to scanned documents, in the first line, obviously we have a raster graphic, so there are no characters, but one of the major benefits of PDFA is obviously text searchable documents, and this is reached through OCR, and OCR is like an invisible character set, and then this is a very good manner to do this as Unicode, and we have to wait a little bit for more customer or best practices, but I would expect personally that 2U will be the format of choice when customers go for 2U. Then we have larger page sizes. So this is also new with that, so PDF A-1 was limited to 5 by 5 meters, which is typically enough for 95%, but as I said, we had the nuclear power plant customer, this power plant customer, not PowerPoint, sorry, we had this one, and this had plans with 7 meter in size, so the limit was reached, or they are in a lot in archives and libraries, they have very large documents, and this was relaxed to 381 kilometers. So if you have large maps, large construction files drawn, so this is also now possible without any problems. We have some further enhancements. As we said, we wanted to concentrate a little bit on scanned documents. This is more for digital, but Armin has an example in a minute. So transparency is not allowed in PDF A-1, so but this is not allowed now allowed in -2. More annotations and comments, so this is, think of insurances, they like to do this. Open type fonts can be embedded. The digital signature was also obviously in PDF A-1, and the PDF A standard says we want to allow to embed a digital signature. How the digital signature is done is not our business, so this is part, and this was more detailed, more clearly specified, and the metadata, which is XMP, so think like XML. This is a XML variant, I would say, and this is now, or PDF part 1 was only on the document level, and this can now go further with the object level. So and I think Armin has examples for a large map and the transparency.
Yes, 1 second. Let's maybe start with the large map. This has been looming in the background for quite a while. We just see a very small excerpt here, but you see that it really does contain content. And if you go here in the properties, you see that the page size for this one is really 324 inches, and you can do the math in your head or in your calculator. For the more ISO-based folks, this is more than 7 meters. So that's way beyond the 5 meter per dimension limit. Okay. And as for the transparency, I have 2 files here, which actually are really from my everyday practice. That's why I know them so well. And that's some documentation for Dockyard. And you see that here you have this ugly looking black block, which in this case has been created by simply saving as PDF A1 from Word. And as you can see, if I open up the other version of this document, it's due to the fact that transparency had to be eliminated. This is how this graphic is intended to look, and you see that there are some writing which you can no longer recognize here. Word actually does that without a warning. PDF Compressor would present you with a warning, but in either case there would be no real means of preserving the transparency, and that's of course way better now that we have transparency in PDF A-2. That's it already with the examples. I'm sure you have more detailed questions, especially concerning your own source material. So once again, I can only encourage you to send these questions to us, to give us a phone call, to send us an email, and we will only be too glad to help you out and answer the questions. Thomas.
Okay, thank you for the demonstration. So we had seen a sample of the transparency for the further enhancements. And now we basically have seen samples and description of the, let's say, major features, a little bit from the point of view of scanned documents. But then obviously there you may have the question of what's the best practice, what should I do? And here are some principles. As I said, this is also obviously an individual discussion, so we are happy, or also you're welcome to contact the PDFA Competence Center to discuss this. So one major point is that obviously PDF A-2 does not replace PDF A-1, so this would be somewhat crazy. So this was also something the ISO very clearly defined in 2005. They said this is a standard for long-term archiving. This will never become invalid by definition, but there is technology improvement, the world moves on. We will have, and this was already in the concept in 2005, further parts, but this means there's no migration or something else needed, and also this is upward compatible, so every valid PDF A-1 document is obviously also a valid PDF A-2 document. And for users, they really should define their requirements, their environment. So if the safe reproduction of documents is a key issue, then 1B, like basic, is still fine. If scans with Unicode text are a benefit, important, if you need a lot of searchable and just start now, maybe 2U is a good choice. If you need accessibility and semantics of documents, it's TA. So these are some samples. As I said, this is more an individual project discussion to see all the requirements and find the best solution. LuraTech can help with that. So as we are co-founder of the PDFA Competency Center, and as you have seen from Armin, we obviously support with our PDF compressor, PDF A-2, and basically already for a long time we just released it after the ISO standard was finally released. So I think we're done. We're a little bit over time, but only 5 minutes. We hope you received some interesting information. Please do not hesitate to contact us. Do you have any more points, Armin? No.
No, I thank you as well. Once again, please answer the questionnaire and hope to meet you again, as far as you can call it meeting, in one of our future webinars. Goodbye.
Thank you, and goodbye, and have a good day.